Welcome to this segment of People Like Us, where we honor the diversity of people in our community. Tonight, we're very happy to welcome Renate Stendhal, who is the authoress of Love's Learning Place, Truth as an Aphrodisiac in Women's Long-Term Relationships. Thank you for joining us tonight, Renate.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. That is really quite a title and very exciting to read the book as I'm just starting to do. But it brings also a hint of mystery, and there are a lot of mysteries in sex, isn't there?
Yes, isn't there? Sex is really shrouded in a lot of mystery, silence and lies, I would say. That is basically what makes sexuality a difficult topic for everyone in our culture. We don't really learn anything truthful about sex when we grow up. We get a lot of strange stories from Hollywood.
Oh, sure.
From romance novels.
Oh, yes.
From dirty girl talk sometimes.
Yes, some of that.
When we're lucky. And basically, nobody teaches us what it means really to be a good lover or to have great sex. It is a mystery. And for women, of course, in particular, we're not supposed to be sexual, right?
That's true. We've lived kind of a bounded life in that manner. You know, talking about mysteries, there are 3 myths that you mentioned in your book, which sound very familiar that we've all come across.
Mm-hmm.
And one is that she should know just what I want. She's a woman, after all. There is no magic if I have to explain it, if I have to say what I want. And sex is an instinct. Therefore, we all should know it right away. Now, these are 3 myths, yes?
Yeah, 3 big ones.
Pretty big ones,
There are
aren't they?
more. I address many more.
Yes.
When women come to consult with me, it's very often striking how little is being communicated in their love relationships about their sexual needs, wishes, secret fantasies, and their fears, not to forget. And there is this interesting assumption. We are both women, we have the same bodies. Now, come on, honey, do it to me.
You should know
and
what I
do
want.
it right, because you are supposed to know. Women are so close in many ways, and we are socialized as these, hovering together gals. So in bed, we should, of course, obviously read each other's thoughts, right? And finish our sentences and know what our gestures mean. And the truth is, of course, extraordinary, we know so little and we communicate so little. I have often thought if we had a 12-step movement to tell each other the truth about our feelings, sexual feelings, a kind of 12-step silence anonymous, it would be very helpful, but there is nothing. There is no teaching about sex, and there is no teaching about how to tell the truth without hurting a person's feelings, which feeds into, of course, the whole story about why do people not talk and assume that a woman would know another woman. And lo and behold, surprise, every woman is so different. Every body is so individually different that, frankly, we need to communicate. We need to learn an alphabet.
This is something that you mentioned in your book, too, is that we need to learn another language virtually. And I found that something very interesting. I found that very enlightening. And truth as an aphrodisiac. I found that, again, as we were talking before the show, that I find truth is very enlightening. Truth will show you the way. But as an aphrodisiac, that hadn't occurred to me before. I guess it's a good release, is it not?
That's another myth, perhaps. That when you say it like that, it suddenly makes me aware that even that truth is enlightenment is almost a myth, where I would say, how do you know that? What is your experience?
Yeah, you have you go through 3 different couples in this book. Tell us very briefly a little bit about each one.
Yes, in fact, I chose 3 archetypal couples because I wanted to give an example of a couple where sex, after a really close, intimate relationship, has fallen asleep after a few years down the line. Very typical. Don't we all know that?
Yes.
Not just among women, of course. There is no lesbian bed death. There is a bed death heterosexual, a hetero bad death, there is a gay bad death. We all suffer from that in intimate, committed relationships. Then there is a couple who is really into sex with all the tools from the toolbox, and they are overworking, in a sense, the tools, and they are also frustrated because they can't get closer, they can't get hotter. What are they going to do? So that's too much sex in a couple.
And
the
lastly?
third is a couple where there is no sex at all, but an extremely sensuous, physically involved, tender relationship. And the interesting thing is that these two women who seem to have it all, in a sense, because they're so comfortable, so close, something is missing. And the truth in that particular case came out in our talks about this odd sense that, well, why no sex if you're so close and so loving?
Well, I'm afraid that we're going to have to leave on that note and have our viewers explore it more by picking up this wonderful book. I'm truly enjoying it as I'm reading it along, which is through Edgework Books, who you're also part of that working group. But I want our readers to know that, or our viewers to know, that they can find more about this wonderful Renate's book by checking her website at www.renatestendhal, that's one word, .com. And for more on Edgework Books, you can also check www.edgeworkbooks.com. That's also one word. Renate, we have to have you back again so you can elaborate more on this wonderful book. And thank you so much for joining us and enlightening us on women's different ideas about sex.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
This year's San Francisco International Lesbian Gay Film Festival has expanded to 18 days and closed with an attendance of over 84,000. The film festival continues to be the oldest and largest film festival of its kind, with moviegoers, filmmakers, critics, actors, and distributors all under one roof. Joining me in the studio this month is David Lamble. Mr. Lamble is a film critic for the Bay Area Reporter for the past decade and hosts his own award-winning radio talk show, Straight Jacket, dealing with social, political, health, and arts topics in the LGBT community on KALX on FM radio. David, welcome to Outlook Video.
Well, hello, Raymond.
What did you think about this year's festival?
I think this year's festival was probably down artistically from previous festivals, and I think that's just one of the law of averages comes in. Frameline has been remarkably lucky in getting a lot of really good films in years gone by. And I think they kind of peaked out this year. But there were some marvelous films, and especially films from Asia.
I mean, that was the whole theme, Asian films.
Yes, it really was.
It was a tidal wave of them.
It really was, and there were some really impressive films, some of which have already opened commercially, like Stanley Kwan's Lan Yu,
Right.
which is just completing a run at the Castro Theater in San Francisco as we speak.
I liked the Korean one, Bungee Jumping on Their Own.
Yes, and I also liked Fish and Elephant, which was the first lesbian film shot in mainland China, a film that was actually shot, as they say, underground in China, which means illegally. It means you don't have the permits from the government, and of course you can be stopped in theory.
Okay. And without further delay, let's name off the winners. The Audience Award for Best Documentary was given to Dee Mosbacher for Radical Harmonies, a history of the women's music movement from the folk singers of the 70s to the riot girls of the 90s. At the screening,